Michael Irvin putting this locker room on blast on his social media after.
When I got here, I understood the men before me. They built the Dallas Cowboys. They made this America's team. They put a championship on the table before I got here. My job while I was here is to match what they have done because they built it. They handed it to me. Put my damn championship on the table. That's all we ask. Put your damn championship on the table and you couldn't do it. All the asses gotta go.
Woo!
Wow.
Mike!
Carpe omnia.
All they asses got to go. That was a playmaker going off. Des Bryant, who I think was betting in-game, said somebody getting fired after he heard Jerry in the post, and he also went to Dan Quinn. I mean, he torched Dan Quinn, saying Dan Quinn already packing up for Seattle. Get his ass up out of here. And I'm paraphrasing because I can't repeat exactly what the middle 88 said. Look, you want to speculate about playoff Seattle distraction? Fine. It's on the table today. That's how stupid that game plan looked. That's how inadequate that performance was. You want to come up here with a theory and say, Dan Quinn, he was thinking about replacing Pete Carroll? Fine. I'm not going to fight you. I'm not going to argue with you whatsoever. Normally, I don't subscribe to it, but that is how brain dead that strategy seemed.
Yeah.
And Mike McCarthy doubled it up on the offensive side with running the football as much as he did, especially on second down.
I was really surprised at the number of people who were suggesting on social media and the people that were talking about it, you know, behind the scenes, that just this thought for some folks that not distracted by the Seattle job, almost that like trying to get out of there. Like, well, I got to get to Seattle, so let me put a bad game plan out here on purpose. Like, consciously do it. That was a weird suggestion that I saw a lot of people dropping out there yesterday.
Dez tweeted exactly, Quinn was ready to leave Dallas, fire his ass, Jerry, and give him his wish.
Somebody from around the league texted me yesterday, Quinn should be fired too, likely knew he was getting the Seattle job and was horrible.
You think he purposely tanked this thing just so he
I don't. I think it's an odd suggestion. No, I think it's complete.
The draft picks.
No, I think it's a completely weird suggestion, but people are suggesting it for some reason.
877-881-1053 in order to hit us up on the truckwreck.com text line here on Shan and RJ. I put out the poll question. It got 7,700 responses. 7,774 Tolos. Head coach of the Cowboys poll question. Keep McCarthy. Promote Dan Quinn. Belichick, Harbaugh, Vrabel, or other. How do you think the Tolos voted? What a mighty, mighty fall for someone on this list. Oh, my Lord.
They wanted the D.
You think that they want Dan
voted
Quinn?
D. No, they voted D.
Yeah, very nice, Chris Rose. The Belichick, Vrabel, Harbaugh, I think wins easy.
Belichick is in his own category.
Is in his own category.
Then you got Harbaugh, Vrabel, other.
I think Belichick wins.
Belichick is in second at 27%. 60% of the near 8,000 Tolos have voted for Harbaugh, Vrabel, other.
Ring me up, Peyton.
For Jim Harbaugh.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, Harbaugh is the guy that I would love. I would love for them to go get Jim Harbaugh.
Why Harbaugh over some of the others?
Because if you want to talk about
like Harbaugh versus Vrabel.
Because I think Harbaugh is a push you over the edge guy who's shown like an ability to do it at a higher level in the NFL than Vrabel has. And so, and I mean, I think he's got a good idea of personnel. And yeah. I think Harbaugh would be really good. I would not.
Does Harbaugh or Trent get the San Fran roster credit?
I think that it's not Harbaugh getting a majority of it, but I think Harbaugh absolutely has a good eye for talent. Okay. I think that ultimately...
You don't think he was like totally hands-off?
No, I think that there was guys like Scott McLuhan and people there who really impacted it, but I do think he's got a good eye for talent. He's the one who got Richard Sherman to Stanford or got Richard Sherman out of Stanford, and I mean I think he's a good talent.
I wouldn't have a problem with Harbaugh. I just, like the difference in him, Vrabel, he went one round further than Vrabel did. It's not like this, like Vrabel never made it anywhere.
You mean like to the Super Bowl versus
the AFC Championship game? Like I mean, I think they're I'd be happy with, either one. I think they're both good coaches.
I would not be upset with Vrabel. Like, initially, I will say this. If Vrabel would come in here and try to dictate certain concepts on offense as a defensive player coming out by the, I would not be in favor of that. But, I think Vrabel would be good for their culture and toughness and everything else.
This is for RJ Choppy.
Yes, sir.
Because he normally tries to be the most consistent one in terms of stability, not in his own life, but for coaching. He's not quick trigger fire this guy. You've said, 12 win seasons. What's the stat now? This is the first time in NFL history, first off, that a number 17 won in the playoffs. And the first time ever that a team has won 12 games in 3 consecutive years has not at least made it to the conference championship game. You have been a proponent of keeping the coach who does that. Where do you stand right now this morning? It's 7:30 a.m. Central Time. RJ Choppy.
On the dot, you said it.
On the dot. That's
literally 7:30 on the dot.
I'm that good of a host. 7:30? No.
He hit the post.
No, it was total luck. Where do you stand on Mike McCarthy?
Today's the day to get me. If you want me to, today would be the day. I am as open to change as I ever will be after that. And I'm not usually like that. And tomorrow I probably will okay, we take a step back here.
Yeah.
Because
I feel like I need some days to breathe on it.
Yeah, and I think Jerry will too. I honestly, I don't think we're. If Jerry makes a decision, I don't see it happening until Wednesday at the earliest.
Why though?
Because that's his MO.
No. Why do you need it to breathe?
Because I do think winning 12 games first. And Olsen talked about this yesterday.
Let's play Olsen real quick. This is Greg Olsen in the second half when they had quit, arguably saying getting rid of McCarthy is cuckoo talk.
I'm going to be the first to go on record. I think the conversation about replacing Mike McCarthy is crazy talk. So let me just preface it by saying that. But I always think the best exercise is if you let go your coach, would anyone else hire him? I think the answer with Mike McCarthy is clear. I think teams would jump over themselves to hire him to have this level of consistent success. So if the answer to that question is yes, that answers it.
I think he would get hired again. I don't know how you don't hire a coach who A has a Super Bowl and B in his second stop won 36 games in 3 seasons. That's pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. I get it. I understand the drawbacks. I get it. But yeah, I do think winning 12 games in 3 straight years is a valuable thing. He obviously
it's a great achievement.
He obviously fits with this quarterback, with this team, with this organization. But I also understand and teams had to make tough decisions. The Rams had to make a tough decision on Jared Goff. There are teams who had to make tough decisions on certain coaches out there. The Falcons had to make a tough decision with Dan Quinn. They went to a Super Bowl with Dan Quinn. They won playoff games with Dan Quinn. They had to make tough decisions. The Seattle just had to make one with Pete Carroll.
Give me the percentage that you feel confident that Mike should not be back.
Should not be or will not be?
Should. Your feeling.
If I was making the decision today, right now, knowing what's out there, I'd probably make a change.
What's your percentage?
100. No.
Honestly,
nope. And look,
see, I think you have to.
Tomorrow I'll change my mind.
Okay.
I think that, and look, some of this is there's certain things that are in poor taste, I think, to discuss when somebody's actively trying to do a job or get a job done, and that in retrospect, I think are fair to say, hey, here are the things that you can lay out and say it was time for a change. Like here, if people are like, why did this happen? Then you go, okay, well, look, if you're having trouble understanding it, here are the reasons why it probably should have happened. So I think some of that exists. That's probably in poor taste to talk about until Mike is potentially fired. But I will say that I think that pretty clearly they've been good enough to play with the contenders for 3 years now. They've been talented enough to hang with those teams.
Hang with them straight up?
No,
or in the standings?
No, to end up in the same place these teams did.
Yes.
You ended up in the same spot. You ended up in the same pool of competition with those teams, and consistently they are losing in ways that feel like they come down to preparation and details and the things that would be on not just Mike McCarthy, but that would be on all of the coaches on that staff.
It's look, that's the problem, but here's the flip side of that is
when coaching becomes a true difference, they lose.
Right. But and listen, you got it. We all have to own this one too, not Sean. But Linehan wasn't good enough. Callahan wasn't good enough. Jason wasn't good enough. Kellen wasn't good enough. Mike ain't good enough. Like, sooner or later, it's the damn quarterback.
Who said Kellen? But that's the thing.
So seriously, like, no, you can't keep changing coaches on the offense to fix the quarterback, and then the quarterback never get fixed, and then you realize, oh crap, here we are 10 years down the road. We got to make a change. Stop shopping at Dollar General for your quarterback and pick one of the first round.
Do we have an issue with the offense? Like
yesterday we did.
Okay, yesterday we had an issue with the offense, but again, what we're talking about is issues of preparation and details, not schematic or like execute. It's the stuff that is all laid out in front of you. Kellen Moore, they had the number one offense. Again, I've said it over and over again. Kellen and Dak together during their time when Kellen was the coordinator and Dak was the quarterback. In those games that they played, they had the number one offense in the NFL, and that's during the Mahomes era of everything that they've done. It's during the Josh Allen Bills era. There's nothing broken in a macro sense about the offense. The offense is really, really good, and it continued to be really good this year after the first 5 weeks when Mike tried to derail it. Since then, it was great, and they found their rhythm. The problem in these games is always we're talking about things that go beyond just like Dak's ability as a quarterback. Dak was awful yesterday, and you have to start asking questions less about Dak's ability as a quarterback over 18 weeks and more about Dak's ability to step up to the pressure in a 4-week window. That's what you have to start asking more about, I think. But to say that it's like, oh, we got to change that. No, Linehan, are you going to argue for Scott Linehan, Chop?
I'm not.
Are you going to argue for Linehan?
I'm not arguing for him.
Argue for Garrett. You didn't want to argue for Kellen Moore, so I don't know how you're going to say well, it can't be all these guys. You can, if you agree that those offensive minds were guys that should have been pushed out. I don't know what we're talking about here. And you just said that if it was you would also fire McCarthy. So you're in favor of firing all these people
again,
too.
I'm not. I don't have a problem with that, and I only would fire him because I'd get Belichick. I would not fire him for Mike Vrabel. I don't think Vrabel's just he's a goofball.
I think in the coming I think in the coming days we're going to find out that there are real problems with that culture.
I can't
our culture
with this culture, and I think we're going to and look, whether he's back or not, whether the Cowboys choose to move on from him or not, there needs to be.
Well, what could be wrong with the culture? Jane Slater, your cohort, said, I thought she was our cohort. We can't get her on any of the shows.
Settle down.
But she said that the culture is as good as it's ever been. But what does that mean? I know there's certain things you can't say right now.
I just think that.
But chemistry-wise, we haven't heard zero. Like, I compare and I'm just throwing out observations. This looks to be the total opposite of Philly's meltdown with the bickering and the bitching and the finger pointing. Now, we didn't lose 6 games in a row like them, but this looks to be the total opposite. We haven't had any of that here.
No, but I think that
quarterbacks seem to love each other.
As good as it's going to get with those two, right? They loved each other.
When you see the issues of details and effort and everything else, so culture can mean a lot of things. Culture can mean your interpersonal relationships between the players, how you manage personalities. It can be about the culture that sets in place expectations for how when an entire football team shows up to a playoff home game looking unmotivated on both sides of the ball. That is a culture that seems to set up guys that don't know how to work the way they're supposed to.
So, but they were motivated for 17 weeks.
Yeah.
And then they all of a sudden got unmotivated. So
with the playoffs on the line, that doesn't make sense.
What were the biggest games of the year? What were the absolute biggest games of the year?
Buffalo.
The hype games we're talking about. Buffalo, road game Philly, road game San Francisco, playoff game. What did they do? 0-4, and in all 4 of them had massive problems. And in 2 of the 4, they had, issues with body language. They had guys afterwards who were just seemed disinterested in it. I'm not saying that it can't be salvaged. It's just whenever if you're overseeing an unruly classroom, like at some point it's like, well, you've got to kind of take control of it, even if you don't have problem children. But if you just have an entire classroom that you're overseeing, well, it's like, okay, well, teacher, you got to figure this out.
Yeah, I mean, look, Dak played well against Philly.
Sure, that's why I don't think that it's just strictly about offensive, like how's the offense executed. This decision comes down to more than that. This decision comes down to that's the same question that they're going to wrestle with in Philly with Sirianni. Is their culture broken? Culture, like a cancerous, toxic culture, is the quickest way for a team to go, we've got to reset here.
But okay, so let me ask you this: why did, no matter where he went, why did Tom Brady never have a bad culture? Why is there never talk about bad culture with certain players?
There was. I mean, in 2019, that was considered
after 20 years. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
After 20 years.
Right. But what I'm saying, like, I mean, winning cures a lot. So if you have somebody who's consistently locked in like Brady's, and by the way, if you'll notice, a lot of the people who are some of the most toxic coaches, it's the people who have left New England. McDaniels was considered ridiculously toxic.
Right.
Patricia
was. It worked because nobody stepped out of line with Tom.
Right. Because Tom is that, like, the way that Tom plays, the way that Tom levels up, the way that they win titles. You got to remember, when they won titles initially, they were underdogs. They weren't supposed to be anything. Yep. And then after that, they just sustained success.
Mike McCarthy on his job security last night, quote, "I don't think anyone saw this coming. I think the biggest thing is we are disappointed. I have not thought past the outcome of this game." Here's where I sit on it right now, and I'm trying to be a little bit patient and not like react in the moment. I'm leaning towards you can't bring Mike back. Because how are you going to go through another regular season? How are you going to go through this again? Right? How are you going to go 11-6, 12-5, and not have everyone thinking the same exact thing? You didn't lose in the NFC Championship game to the 49ers. You got waxed against a team who barely got in. The first 7 seed ever. Was Jordan Love out of his mind? Spectacular. Would Jordan Love have put it on Baltimore yesterday? Maybe. But you still lost to what was supposed to be this was supposed to be a cakewalk. Cakewalk first game, you're going to be favored in the second game, and then you can lose in the NFC Championship game, and maybe that would not be enough. How are we going to just go through the regular season next year and feel like it's going to be any different, or the first sign of things? This is what they're going to be asking in Philadelphia right now. How are we going to do this next year? When A.J. Brown isn't happy, the first sign of that. When CD and Dak are crying to each other and for some reason miscommunicating with each other, like, how are we going to run this back? That's my biggest hiccup and hurdle right now, and that would lead towards replacing Mike. Pepe, where do you fall on it?
I mean, I would get rid of Mike right now. I mean, you have to, because it's the same old. He struck out 3 times. The first year, 2020, Dak got hurt. It doesn't count. But you have 3 straight 12-5 years. It's going to happen again. Because I put my hand up. I already looked at next year's schedule. I said, 11-6, 12-5, 13-4 maybe. But it's going to be the same old. It doesn't matter if you get a home game or not. You're still going to lose. You're still going to fail every single time. It's ridiculous. Someone else has to be in charge. I
just don't know how it's like when you get in a fight with your significant other, right? And you've had a lot of ugly fights, and then the next fight's coming, and it's like, God, here comes another 2 days or a week of misery. Like, all these feelings I think are going to creep back. It's easy to say the morning after, but the doubt and here we go again, and the repeat factor and the question marks that you have in your own mind, I don't know how you get away from that. And that's with a 12-win season.
Yeah.
Imagine if this is 10-7. We're talking like we are
3 straight
the
12
Chicago
wins.
Bears.
Yeah, 3 straight 12 wins.
3 straight 12 wins.
Yeah, tough decisions do have to be made at some point with a lot of teams, be it the coach, the quarterback, certain players. There's no doubt this is one of them. Like, they put themselves in this position. If they lose a close game, I think you could deal with that, right? Football is a one-possession game most of the time anyway. When you're down 30 at home to the 7 seed, like that was literally, for me coming in, that was literally the only situation where I would even remotely advocate for Mike not to be here anymore.
Yesterday had to happen for this discussion to happen. Right. The discussion may have happened if you lost to Green Bay, regardless if it was by 1 or 30.
Right, but if you have 3 fumbles,
yeah,
which isn't on the head coach, right? It's not on the head, right? Fumbles, if you had 3 fumbles, and they had short fields and they wind up winning by a little bit. All right, you know what? That's football, man. I could deal with that.
Yeah.
You lose by 32
with those game plans, RJ,
and you looked lifeless. And I hate to do that. I hate the emotional. That's such a Philadelphia sports take. But they looked lifeless yesterday. They looked like they had no desire to be there at all. Yeah, and that's part of the coach. It's part of the players. It's part of the organization, and the culture starts You can say the culture starts with the quarterback. You can say it starts with the coach. It also could start with the owner. Like, you can start with any of those guys. And that was just an organizational disaster.
I mean, part of to me, part of the entire coaching staff, again, not just one person, the entire coaching staff is, there's personal responsibility among the players, but the coaching staff oversees the interpersonal relationships, the social dynamics, the locker room structure. Like, they oversee that. And so if that has flipped or if that falls short, somebody's got to answer for that. You can't in good faith run it back.
I agree right now. I agree. I'm trying to take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Trying to take a step back. But here's the problem, as Ian Rappaport said on the NFL Network. 7 other teams have a head start on you. 82 years old, 81 or 82 is the age of Jerry Jones. If you blink, does Belichick go to Atlanta? If Philly loses tonight, someone very connected told me Philadelphia is interested in Belichick. Does Vrabel already have his interviews lined up? Harbaugh is in Los Angeles today. So this whole sit back, you got to weigh that against losing out on the potential answer. Patience could cost you.
It could. I assume Harbaugh is not going to just do one interview, right? I assume that he's going to take his time. He might. That might make him an offer he can't refuse and say, here's $15, $20 million a year and take it or leave it. But, who knows what the Spanos family's going to do.
And I mean, Jerry, if he is going to make that decision, Jerry may already have an idea of exactly what he wants, so he feels no rush. Like he may feel like, I know what I have I know what I can get lined up.